and welcome to Brap Life. So thank you for taking time to do this because I know you are one of the most busy people traveling all over the world all the time. And it's really exciting to get to sit down and talk to you about winning all of 2025, essentially.
Winning all of 2025. I think, that has a very nice ring to it. I will be reusing that at some point myself.
I would be honored for you too.
But yeah, busy is an understatement. I'm glad I'm taking up most of the frame on this video so you can't see the chaos that is behind me in this room. I really was trying to position that camera really carefully. It was one of those deals where I didn't even really bother unpack from the last race I was at because I'm leaving for Florida in like a week and a half. So it's like, well, I'm just gonna pack everything back into it. So I've got like 4 gear bags back there and a stationary bicycle, and yeah, it's in fact I think you can just barely see the bicycle
Look
hanging
at
out of
you.
it. So yeah, good
Oh,
stuff.
that's awesome. So your downtime is like a week of just like, are you actually taking downtime or are you staying like incredibly
Yes.
active during this?
Oh no, I definitely had to take some downtime, which I wasn't going to get into it this early in the podcast, but that was the one bad
Mhm,
thing about the volume of racing I did. I got fairly
mhm.
sick after the second GP of Portugal and just never really
Oh,
recovered from that. So I ran the
wow.
last 2 months of the season not feeling great. I don't know that it progressed to Epstein-Barr, but I'm not saying it wasn't either. I want to say the week I got back from Portugal, I was in bed, managed to just barely get back on the bike before the Indiana round of the National Enduro, did the National Enduro. And it was just kind of a cycle because I'd start to maybe feel almost okay and then I'd be racing again. And then I'd feel like crap. And then I'd be almost okay again and then I'd be racing again. So it's really just I had some good results, but the last 3 months of the season really just felt like trying to survive it more so than
Yeah.
saying I didn't enjoy it. It was cool to win all the stuff, but it was also very much a thank God I made it to December. I wasn't sure I was going to there for a minute.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, I've
crazy.
been off the bike for maybe 3 weeks now, 4 weeks now, and I'm starting to feel like human again. So, but as you might be able to tell by the stationary bike, I am just last week started slowly getting back into cardio weight training, and then I'll get back on the motorcycle probably the second or third day of January when I head to Florida.
Okay. Wow, I didn't realize that all of that was going on behind the scenes of everything. Like, that's what's really cool about having these conversations with people is that's kind of what brought all of this up, this whole podcast in general, is you don't know what's going on with that person you're lining up next to. We've had people who are just kids who are like working hardcore when they're not racing, and we've had people who have cancer, or we've had people who are like ridiculously sick like you with this, Danny Lewis with Lyme's disease. Like, it's crazy what people go through and they still get out there and they race. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And
ridiculously inspiring.
at least at my level, we try and keep it that way. I don't want the girl lined up to me next to me to know I'm weak that weekend. I want to come in
Yeah,
looking exactly
yeah,
like I always do and just fake it till you
yeah,
make it kind of thing. I don't want to give them an
yeah.
opening to think they've, get any momentum up.
Oh, no.
So,
But learning after the fact is really cool to see
yes.
that you got the results that you did when you were feeling the way that you were. And imagine if you were able to feel 100%. Like, that's incredible to think about. Like, you've already outperformed like yourself on so many things. Like, you've improved so much. I mean, I've only been following you for like a couple years, but it's just been so cool to like watch you go, and it's like she won again. She won again. She won again. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is so cool."
Yeah,
So,
it's going to be hard to top this, that's for sure. I'm not sure I can, honestly.
as long as you're having fun, I think that's the most important part. Like, and just increasing the fun, and then maybe the results will just keep coming, and it'll all just slowly trend upward. So,
Well, the moment it ceases to be fun is the moment you need to stop. That's
I
something
agree.
I've always believed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I agree. But it is your job versus like my job. My job is in a lab, and then, so there are days when I absolutely love my job. And then there are days where I'm like, I just want to go home. So I feel like it's like that with everything. Some people think that they want to race dirt bikes and that it's just fun all the time. And like, it should be fun, but also it is your job. So I'm sure the travel and all of that part of it probably isn't the most ideal, but being actually physically on the bike is probably the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else. There's days when it's like 38 degrees and raining, and no, I really don't want to go out and practice today, but it's sort of my job, so I have to whether I want to. But with that being
Hmm.
said, I think also something that helps is I have, oh, pretty much every off season since I graduated college. And well, let's start with I went to college, so I did like the traditional bit there for a while. And then
Hmm.
in the off season, I've had just about every like shitty temp job one can have. I've delivered pizzas and been a dishwasher at Pizza Hut. I worked in an Amazon
Wow.
warehouse. I've landscaped during the summer. I've roofed during the summer. Um,
Oh,
Even now, I have a little part-time gig I do for a timber company out of Missouri. I go down there and do odd labor, operate machines when they're short on people or I'm short on cash. Like they're super cool about it. I don't have like minimum hours or anything. Do a little
yeah.
bit of remote work for them as well. But it's like I also know what it's like to have a real job that's no fun at all. So it's like, well,
Hmm.
I can't really whine too hard about having to go out and ride in, my 36-degree rain today when I could be delivering pizzas for 7.25 an hour. So like,
Hmm.
you know, and yeah,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
also why I say though, if it ceases to be fun, like I can definitely go get a job that's better than delivering pizzas for 7.25 an hour. So it's like I've got options. So really the reason I race is because I do it out of love. And that's really what it
That's
comes to.
good. I think that makes it even better, like, on my side, just, like, I
Mm.
feel I have always felt that you have passion and you have this excitement, and it's really, really cool to watch you race, and now knowing that behind it, that just makes it even cooler to me, because I know you're not just like, "Man, like, this is just what I do." Like, I'm this not saying that I would ever think you're entitled, because 'cause you're not. Like, the second I met you, you're, like, the most humble person, and you're so cool, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is awesome." Like, but, some people can get that way, so not typically in this sport, though, at least in this
Yeah,
discipline.
I think enduro riders as a general rule tend to be a lot more down to earth than say
Yeah.
supercross riders. Like not that I know a ton of supercross
Yes.
riders, but just like listening to interviews and kind of in my imagination, like I just kind of get that vibe.
Yeah, I
Or,
was around MX
even
and Supercross before I got into Hard Enduro, and yeah, it's very different.
well, even like when I was a little kid, I did race a little bit of moto. I went to Loretta's one year. And like while
Mhm.
I'm there on the line, I'm like trying to talk to the girls on the gate next to me, and like no one is having it. And I'm like, oh, they don't
Yeah.
talk to each other here. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Just different worlds, right?
So, to touch on that, how old were you when you started riding?
So I started riding a motorcycle at 5 years old. I had like a little quad before then, type deal, four-wheeler, till I could learn to
Okay.
ride a bicycle with no training wheels, and that's when I got to upgrade to the motorcycle. Um,
Mm,
then I started racing when I was 7. That was when I did my first local hair scramble.
okay. And how did that go? Do you even remember?
No, I have no recollection whatsoever. I remember a little I remember a little bit of my first time riding, I think. And I remember
Uh-huh.
I do remember having a massive crash on the four-wheeler, which was the other thing that kind of prompted getting the dirt bike because my dad's like, if she you can go really fast on a four-wheeler without knowing what you're doing at all, and I guess I
Mhm.
wanted it, like, wide open on the little 50cc quad going down the field, like, multiple cartwheels, and I was told that, like, "Okay, yeah, we need to we're gonna go learn to ride a bicycle today, and then we're getting you a 50, and then you're gonna be way better off." Um, so I remember crashing the quad. I kinda have memories of riding the dirt bike the first time, although I've also seen a lot of
Mhm.
photos of that day, so it could just be, like, 12-year-old Rachel retroactively forming inaccurate memories based on stories and photos. I was a psych major. Memory's a really fallible thing, you know?
I was
But
just gonna say that, yes.
and then my mom, one of the things I really like that she did for me growing up, I've got a photo album of maybe the first, like from the time I was at my first, like riding the bike the first time until I was so maybe on Superman. She's got a photo album with photos from most of my races that I keep here. It's fun to go look
That's
at sometimes.
awesome.
I'll have to
Aw.
if you're bored later, I'll have to take some pictures and send them to you.
Oh my god.
But
Yes, please. That would
yeah,
be
so the
awesome.
the racing locally, like I did okay. Like I was a little kid on a 50. You can't really draw too many conclusions about what little kids on 50s are doing, but I enjoyed it. And by the time I was on like 85 super minis, I'd gotten pretty decent, but there also was
Mm-hmm.
no women's class locally at that time. Or at
Mm-hmm.
least, sorry, they may have had an adult women's class that rode with the little bikes. They didn't have anything that
Mm-hmm.
like actually resembles what I would consider a modern women's class now, right?
Yeah.
So we moved on from District 17 hare scrambles, which I mean had an excellent youth program, but like I said, no girls class, no women's class, just not enough riders to support it at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to the OMA regionals. Well, they called them a national, but it was really more of a regional series. But the promoter was really into it. Bill Gussie is his name, and his kind of shtick was it's like this is the hardest series we have at the time. Like he
Mm-hmm.
ran up for a local hare scramble. It wasn't really hard enduro, but there was some stuff that's like, wow, this is kind of a lot for who's here and what we're doing today. But he like prided himself on that. And the Moose Run was the season finale, and it was I want to say it was like usually either a 25 or a 50-mile loop. I can't really remember. And it was like you're pushing your bike
Mm-hmm.
through rivers, you're riding through riprap under the highway bridges. The one time I did it on my little bike, I got so stuck they had to send in a quad, and then the quad got stuck. They had to send in a tractor to pull out my 85 and I. So like that was the kind of
Oh my
racing he did
God.
over there, and I think that is
Mm-hmm.
one of the main reasons I ended up gravitating towards hard enduro and technical riding as much as I did as an adult because of
Mm-hmm.
that background, right? Like from the time I was
Yeah.
little, I was riding really technical things and kind of like that was what the cool people did, you know? So
Yeah. I've heard about that race actually. Like I had like so many people tagging me in it this year. They wanted me to go and watch, but I just couldn't make it happen. But yeah,
yeah.
so I have actually looked at a lot of footage from like previous years, but I'll have to go back and see if I can find anything of you and your awesome getting stuck moment.
I don't know. That would have been, man, when was I on Super Minis last? That would have been 2008, 2009,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, I was really, really disappointed I couldn't make it out this year, especially since there were rumors that, with Gussie getting up there that it might be like the last one. But I had already committed
Yeah.
to doing a 24-hour in Texas with some friends before I knew about the date. And it's like, well, as much as I would like to go, I would be letting down 5 other people who are relying on me to come in as a hired mercenary and win this event for them. So it's like, well, 2 of them are pretty good friends of mine too. So I'm like, I will be hearing it until the end of time if I
Yeah.
bail on them. So I better just
Yeah. So, how many okay, I'm gonna jump around a little bit. How many disciplines did you ride this year? Or race rather?
races and did the full series or races and showed up to a couple.
Just and showed up and you were there.
Okay, so we'll talk about the obvious ones first. So Enduro GP,
Mhm. Mhm.
National Enduro, Hard Enduro, Endurocross. I did
Mhm.
like 3 or 4 GNCCs too, so cross country.
Mhm.
Did that 24-hour team race.
Mhm.
Pretty sure I did a local hare scramble. Yeah, I did a District 17 hare scramble.
Mhm.
Um, oh, in 6 days.
Okay.
So I guess
So it was
that's
8.
yeah, 8 as I count my
Okay.
fingers. You can my brain kind of quits working once it gets dark outside. So like forgive me. I promise I know what I'm talking about.
No, that's fine. I was guessing earlier and I said I'm pretty sure she raced 7 or 8 different disciplines this year. I was like, it's freaking absolutely
Oh,
incredible
oh,
because
ice racing. I did an ice race. So 9.
okay. Ice
Forgot
racing
about that
doesn't
one.
count to
Which is
me.
funny because I'm actually halfway through packing for that one. So I should have should have remembered that one
Oh,
first.
jeez. Yeah, it's absolutely incredible because we were talking about this on I think it was 2 episodes of the podcast ago, um, about how a lot of people stick to their discipline, and there are very few people who ride at your level who can go between disciplines like that, and especially that many disciplines and be good at all of them. You're not just like showing up to a race and floundering and you're just there and just kind of like whatever.
Well,
You're
I do flounder. I don't get me wrong. There are times I show up and flounder. Like let's not pretend that never happens. But you are correct in the sense that as a general rule, I'm a podium
you're
contender at least.
competitive though.
Pretty much
Exactly.
everything I will show
Exactly.
up for. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's not like you're going and you're just like, I'm just here for fun. Like, I mean, you are there for fun, yes, but you're also there because you have a chance at winning because you're that good. And there are very, very few people in this day and age that can do that across so many disciplines. And I think that's cool because it's such a different kind of riding. Like 6 days is way different than hard enduro. So I feel like I that just is a huge testament to your skill and to your ability to just like I love the way your brain works. After TKO last year doing that track walk with you, it was so cool to just like get a glimpse into your mind and like you've got to be able to like compartmentalize somehow each type of riding that you do. Like do you have a secret for that or is it just natural?
I wouldn't even say it's compartmentalizing exactly
Mhm.
because except for the ice race, which we will agree is very, very different than everything else, that's basically flat track with spikes. We're not going to talk about that. We'll
Mhm.
leave that one aside. And I was just there for fun, that's for sure. Um, a dirt bike is a dirt bike.
Mhm.
If you can ride it, you can ride it. Now, granted, there's a big difference. You're absolutely right between the physical demands of an event. Okay, let's take, for
Mhm.
example, Endurocross in 6 days, because those are about as
Yeah.
different as I think you can get. 5 minutes of trying not to throw up and riding over logs bigger than your motorcycle versus 6 day endurance format, high speed cross tests, endurance, riding on the road and keeping your wits about you for days on end. Those are
Mhm.
two pretty different things,
Mhm.
but the motorcycle is still the motorcycle, right? And a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff, cornering, et cetera, it all carries over. There's differences, yes, but
Mhm.
the differences are not. It's not like riding flat track
Mhm.
and hare scramble. Like there's enough in common, like it all kind of relates. Now, with that being said, I do have different setups for different. Like I would not show up to 6 days on my hard enduro setup. That would be atrocious. I would not show up to well, I have before, but I prefer not to show up for a hard enduro and race my GNCC setup. Like there's just you do have to have maybe some specialized knowledge to make the bike handle optimally for each condition. And I also
Mhm.
try and tailor my training around what I know I'm doing.
Mhm.
If I'm racing a national enduro or if I'm racing a GNCC this weekend, I'm not going to be out hitting logs in the forest. I'm going to be pounding sand motos somewhere on a 30-minute loop, right?
Okay.
Or well, not a 30-minute loop. If only I had a 30-minute loop. 30-minute motos on a loop is what I think I was trying to say there. Again, late, tired, brain not working. Um,
Yes.
if it's a national enduro I'm going to that weekend, I'll prioritize riding single track type trail. Endurocross
Yeah.
the 2 weeks before as much as I could when I wasn't trying to tag team with Shelby and be the freaking promoter of that series for the women this season. I
Mhm.
tried to ride the Endurocross track. So it's manageable, but I would say my personal theory on why people don't get too much outside of their discipline. There's a couple. The first
Mhm.
thing is opportunity cost.
Yes.
Um, any time you spend practicing one thing is time by definition you cannot spend practicing another.
Yes.
Um, and I think the reason it works out okay for me is, like I said, I had such a strong background in difficult writing growing up
Mhm.
that comes naturally enough to me. It's not that I don't have to practice it. I certainly do, but I can put a little less effort into that and still be pretty competitive at it than
Yeah.
something like GNC. Like if I wanted to be a full-time GNCC racer and never do anything else again, I probably wouldn't have time to go extracurricular because I've just never been quite good enough at that to be a championship contender. Podiums, yeah. Championship,
Yeah.
very debatable. My heart's also never really been in GNCC, so that's probably part of the
Yeah.
problem too. And the other
Yeah.
thing, people, once they get to a certain level of good, and this is you kind of touched on it earlier, I would say this is maybe my biggest asset in this sense. I don't have much of an ego. I am not
Yeah.
afraid to go out and look like an absolute fool. I've done it many times. I'm probably going to do it again at some point. I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, do I want to go halfway across the country and lose money now that I'm a professional? No, I really don't want to do that. But I'm also not afraid of looking stupid. And I think a lot of pro riders, when they get to a certain level, their ego is their biggest limiting factor in stepping outside their bubble. They don't want to go
Yeah.
outside of their lane and get slapped around because their ego might not be able to take that. Mine can.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really good point. Like, yeah, you get to a certain point, well, and you're used to the wins all the time, and you're like, no way, I'm not going backwards. I'm not going to do something that I'm not 100% that I'm going to win at. So that's
I will
that's a
also
really,
say
really good point.
I will also say on the women's side, I think it's a bit easier.
Hmm.
I think for someone like Cody Webb to try and be as good at GNCC as he is at Hard Enduro would be near impossible, just because those guys are so good and so specialized. And not to say the women aren't good, like
Hmm.
the top 2 or 3 at the National Enduros each weekend regularly break the top 30 overall, but we're also
Yeah.
not breaking the top 5 overall. So I think
Yeah.
there's still, it's a little bit easier as a woman to do that, I think. And there's also just
Hmm.
less depth in general. At most,
Hmm.
if I go to GNCC, there'll be 12 women in WXC, maybe 5 or 6 of which are threats to me on any given day. Likewise, I
Yeah.
go to National Enduro. There's a handful of us. I mean, there's lots of women that race, but there's few that race at this level. So that
Hmm.
almost
Hmm.
like the lack of depth is kind of disappointing. Like I wish more women raced and we were all
Hmm.
faster and there were more rides and opportunities, but it also does make it easier for me to play the jack of all trades game.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely understand that. And that actually brings up something that I wanted to talk about too. So you already touched on this is that um well, let me start with over your time racing and riding, what has the impact of women on motorsports, like how has that changed since you started versus what it's at now? And do you see that as like because I've only been doing this for a couple years, so I've been in this world for 2 years, and so I have no idea what it looked like before that. um and so, like, for me, there's always been a women's class, but it's always been like you just have women. And like in Minnesota, for example, it was the women's class. And then if you want to move out, there's no pro women, there's no like A women. You just have to move into the men's classes. So that's what I knew. But there are a lot of places across the country that don't even have a women's class.
Yes, and I would say I would have went pro in 2011. And what is it now? We're getting ready for 2026, so 15
Mhm.
years, give or take. And what I have seen in that decade and a half has been pretty remarkable, I think, at least at the national level, which is where my attentions are mostly focused, right? So when
Mhm.
I first started doing GNCC, my first GNCC on an adult bike, well, sorry, I was still on my Super Mini. My first GNCC in the adult race, let's try that again. Um,
Okay.
I signed up to race,
Mhm.
and I like to tell this story. On the starting line, I was there on my Super Mini, quaking in my boots. And right up next to me pulls Maria Forsberg, the reigning GNCC Women's Pro Champion, with her factory KTM bike and her mechanic on the back and the umbrella and the pit board. And here I am on my Super Mini, and I just wanted to crawl back under my van and never come out again. Like I was like full on, oh my God, I got her poster on my wall. I'm racing someone whose poster is on my wall, which in retrospect is kind of a cool experience, especially because Maria, her and Mandy Maston, I really credit as two of my biggest mentors in this sport. Maria could
Yeah.
have just like done the cool kid thing and just not acknowledged the scared little teenager there next to her. But she stuck out her hand, introduced herself as though I didn't know who she was, like, hey, I'm Maria Forsberg. And I'm like, hi. And she was so nice to me that whole first half of the season. She really made me feel like I belonged in a place where honestly I did not belong yet. But the problem was there was only one women's class. So if you
Mhm.
wanted to race, you had to line up next to Maria.
Yeah.
Sorry about you.
Yeah.
So going from that to what we have now in GNCCs, which is 4 women's classes, 3 girls youth classes, regularly 150 plus female racers on any given race weekend. That's pretty dang
Wow.
cool. As opposed to like
Yeah.
the 16 of us that used to line up back in 2011, that's a huge increase. And part
Yeah.
of it, it's kind of a almost a chicken and an egg thing in some sense, because I remember
Mhm.
having this argument. GNCC used to host a in-person rules meeting after their banquet. Now they do it via Zoom, and it's lame, and I don't go. But it used to be kind of nice to sit down, and I mean, anybody could come in, anybody could talk,
Hmm.
as long as you weren't so
Hmm.
hungover after the banquet, you couldn't. Like, you could walk in, and Rita Coombs, Carrie Joe, Tim Cotter, the rest of them, the heavy hitters, usually somebody from the AMA, would all be sitting there, and they would take any question or comment, no matter how stupid or ill thought out. I watched plenty of those too. But they had basically an open mic night for anybody who wanted to talk. And I
Uh-huh.
remember uh, another racer and I, Claudia, were sitting there arguing with them that they needed to have a girls' class. And the
Hmm.
reason they needed to have this girls' class, because that would drive better turnouts in the women's classes eventually. Like, you need to have them start somewhere. And the promoters were like, well,
Hmm.
we only have 2 or 3 girls racing in the boys' classes. That's just not enough to support a class. And we just kind of went, have you ever
Hmm.
thought that if there was a class, they might race it? And they're like,
Yeah.
well, fine, we'll try it. Like, but if we don't get enough turnout, we won't have it again. And sure enough, once, I mean, I grew up racing the boys and I had zero issue with that. And I think some of that's
Hmm.
what made me as durable and fast as I am now. But also, like, not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah.
And Endurocross, I can go out and race men's intermediate. I'm
Yeah.
competitive, but man, being in close environment with guys who can throw their motorcycles around like toys, like, it can be a little bit intimidating, even if you know what you're
Yeah.
doing. So likewise,
Yeah.
if you're a 6-year-old girl racing against these bigger and stronger boys, like, it's not that you can't. I
Yeah.
certainly did. But you'll have better turnouts if you make people feel like they got a place, like they belong here. And
Yeah.
now again, the fact we went from one women's, and GNCC is just an example. This has happened all over the country, really. The fact you go from one women's class to, like, with 15 people to 100 women racing in a weekend across all sorts of classes for their skill level. And
Yeah.
man, probably insensitive, but my dad always used to say, yeah, they've got like 40 plus overweight, long haired C. Like, they've got every down to just as precise as you can be in those men's classes, like, and you can't have a second
Hmm.
women's class. Like, really, you've got 8
Yeah.
seat classes for all manner of bike sizes, and you can't, like, can't get a single second women's class. So,
Hmm.
and like, even locally, I was talking to some friends of mine from New Jersey who run the tour series, and they were
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, you should come do it. I know it's a local, but it's really fun." And like, I didn't have the heart to tell them that, like, I'm so tired. I am so tired by the end of the season. I'm trying to look for ways to cut out races, not ways to do more races. I mean, I told them I
Yeah.
probably would, and I'm sure I will because I'm a sucker. But also, like, they were telling me, yeah, they get like 30, 40 women to a local. I mean, it's a well put
Wow.
on and well run local with good turnouts, but like, I don't know. I have a lot of optimism about how much better things are. And
Yeah.
Yeah, Maria got some factory support back in the day. The bike was shiny and looked clean, but she
Yeah.
wasn't like, she was still working as a electrician at Boeing out in Washington.
Hmm.
She had her flights paid for, her travel, but she didn't make a living doing it. And
Yeah.
now pretty much everybody who's as fast or faster than me is making something that resembles a living. So you see progress happening, but then you're also, I don't know how to put this, you're talking to the reigning world champion of Enduro GP who sleeps in
Hmm.
her van every weekend because she can't afford to get a hotel. So, like,
Yeah.
it's very like, I'm of two minds because I want to be like, wow, look at how far we've come and the industry has supported us. And then I turn around at the same time and go, but this is still what we're looking at?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of go back and forth on the same thing because I've seen positive changes in just the couple years that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of at local levels, you know. I go to a lot of different places, and so I see the races in those states and stuff. So it's cool to see at each local level things are growing. But then yeah, to find out that the pro women weren't being paid at Endurocross, I was like, "Excuse me?" That was huge. Like that,
Yeah,
and it was
that's
mind-blowing not just to me, that was to a lot of people. Like all of the men that I was around that specific night, there was like 10 guys that I was hanging out with because we were all riding, and they were like, "Nuh-uh, the women get paid." And I was like, "Look, Hallie Marks just made this post. And I was like, I feel like Hallie would know over you.
Yes.
And
And I must
so,
say, big shout out to Hallie Marks for the Instagram post read round the
yes,
world, because
yes.
she
Mm-hmm.
and that post are at least 60 to 70% of the reason we had a class this year. I'll take credit
Yeah,
for the other 30, 40, because, well, maybe 20 really, because Shelby worked just as hard as I did. But if
yeah,
Hallie hadn't made that post and let everyone know what kind of
yeah.
circumstance we were working under, I don't think Endurocross would have approached me looking for solutions. It wasn't until every female with a motorcycle west of the Mississippi River were on their case about this situation that they were even considered that cutting our class wasn't the right thing. They're like, well, there's four of you.
Mhm.
And it's like, well,
Yeah.
yes, there are four of us at most races. That is true. But also,
Mm-hmm.
your first act as series promoter was to quit paying the women a purse, and you paid every single man who makes the night show in the pro class down to 15th. And you can't find
Mm-hmm.
even a token gesture for us.
Yeah.
And then also the thing you run into, there's no women's amateur class there, so trying to grow participation can be a bit challenging when, again,
Mm-hmm.
you're having to do the show up and race against your version of the Maria Forsberg, right? If you had
Mm-hmm.
some 14-year-old boy race against Johnny Walker his first night out, how long do you think he's going to last? Like, that's exactly what you're
Yeah.
expecting him to do. But
Yeah.
to their credit, once Endurocross realized that the women do have a following, they were willing
Mm-hmm.
to work with us. Now, Shelby and I
Yeah.
are the ones who talked to all of our sponsors and found that purse money and did all that work, which again, you don't really expect. You don't say to Tristan Hart, hey, if you want paid this week, go find a sponsor for your class. Like, that's not really how
Mm-hmm.
that works. But I was just
Yeah.
grateful to like have a chance to save this. And
Yeah.
they were impressed with our turnout. They were impressed with the purse money we gathered, and they want to work with us again moving forward. So at that point, I consider that a major win for us. And
Yeah.
the other thing too, Super Enduro doesn't have a women's class. So like if you want to be a professional woman racing Endurocross or obstacle based race, this is the only series in the world you can do that in. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
show up and race intermediate somewhere else, but if you want to race other women, the elite,
Mm-hmm.
this is where you got to go. So to
Yeah.
lose that was actually, I'm just gonna shamelessly plug myself and Trail Rider Magazine real quick. I just
Yeah.
put the finishing touches on an article coming out in Trail Rider Magazine that talks about this whole situation in very great detail. I fancy
Okay.
myself a decent writer. I think it's quite funny. So maybe in the show notes, if you have show notes, once this thing
Yeah.
comes out and once the article's live online, I'll have you put the link down there so anyone who wants to know more
Yeah.
about Shelby and I's mad attempt to save women's endurocross, you're more than welcome to read it.
I got so many messages from people, from women who are like, "Oh, Rachel asked me to do this Endurocross race and I'm freaking out." And I I got multiple of those and I'm like, "Do it. Oh my God, do it." I was like so excited. And so
Well,
I went to the first round of Endurocross, my very first time
mhm,
at Endurocross this year. I went to and I did media and and I can't tell you how many people ask me, "Where are all the women? How come there's no women racing?" And I
yeah,
took that back to them and I was like, "Hey, this is being missed. Like, you guys definitely need to." And at that point, I had already known about Hallie and about everything. But that was kind of a talk that was going on behind the scenes because it was like, how do we fix this? Like, I mean, that's obviously something that I'm really huge about is trying to give women a space. And like you were saying, you can go and you can race with the guys, but a lot of women won't do that. A lot of women are very intimidated to do hard things like this, like hard enduro or endurocross. They don't want to go out there with men and they will do it. They don't care if they throw their bike, but they'll do it next to women, but not with men.
mhm,
And like I kind of understand it. And that's why I did this whole challenge for TKO, try and get as many women as I could to sign up for TKO and to like, it was a very, I think it was like 3 or 4 women's first time signing up for a hard enduro there. And so it was like, it was really cool. I helped get together the clinic with Louise because that was the feedback that I got was that women aren't comfortable with the obstacles that they're going to have to do. So I was like, problem solved. We've got Louise. So bring her out here, and now you don't have an excuse. So now you have to
And
sign up. And
that's a concept I absolutely love, and that's two things we haven't spoken with Endurocross yet, but Shelby and some of the other top women and I have been kind of like spitballing ideas, texting back and forth. I would like to
yeah.
have a women's amateur class at Endurocross. I know
Hmm.
due to time considerations in the night show, putting in an extra class is difficult. So my thought process is have them run their main during afternoon qualifying. That would
Hmm.
also give some flexibility to modify the course for them as needed, whether that's blocks in the matrix like they used to do or similar things, make it a little more approachable. And then they also have the benefit, which I think would be a benefit for them, of not having to race in front of the cameras and the TV and the crowd. Like there'll be people
Yeah.
there, you'll be racing against the other racers, but it would provide like a nice introduction to the sport without it being totally overwhelming, because the first time you line up
Yes.
behind the gate with the fire cannons going off and a crowd of people roaring, that can be a lot, you know? And what we're
Yeah.
trying to do is make this approachable, not make it way too much. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I'd like to do. And then depending on what the schedule looks like, tracks nearby my own schedules, I would ideally get to the area like, I don't know, probably the weekend before is going to be pushing it, but 3, 4 days in advance, and I would do like a free evening clinic for anyone who committed to signing up for the
Yeah.
women's amateur class. Now, if you don't sign up for it, I'm just going to charge you full price. You can still come, but like I really want this to be targeted towards women who want to try this because we have to grow the sport somehow. And
Yeah.
like I said, Louise kind of gave me the idea. I saw what she did at TK and went, yeah, we need more of that. So I'm perfectly willing to donate
Yeah.
my own time as well to make that happen.
I think it's so important to just like you're saying, you'll let people come who aren't going to do the race. They just have to pay. But that's huge because then they get to be in the same space, learning the exact same things as the women who are gonna race and see the excitement and then go and see the results. And I think that that puts them like almost kind of in that FOMO space, right? Like where it's like, dang, that
Exactly.
could have been me. Like I could have been there. I think that that's so great. And like I don't know. It's just the camaraderie that women have is just amazing, and the camaraderie. I mean, the women that I met at the TKO clinic are some of my friends now. Like, I'm super excited. I get to talk to them all the time. One actually lives only a couple hours away from me, um, so it's just like I think it's the coolest thing. But it was so good to know that I wasn't lining up for that race by myself and to feel
Mm.
that camaraderie and I'm not the only one out there and we kind of knew each other's like levels or whatever. So when I went out for the hot lap, everybody was just like giggling. It took me forever, but I finished it and that was what was important. But one of the girls, she had talked me into doing the hot lap because I was like, well, technically I don't have to. So I was kind of debating
Wrong
whether or not I
answer.
wanted to.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
Yeah, well,
Technically, I don't have to is never the right answer.
well, yeah, so there was a lot of factors to this. So at the time, I had just driven 42 hours across the country and had slept for 2, and I was at the clinic
Mhm.
space when I found
Okay.
out that. So
All
I was
right.
like, maybe I
Maybe
wanna get
maybe I
some
would have.
sleep. But yeah, so it wasn't just that like I didn't want to do it. I always want to do the hard things I always want to try, but it was a thought for a minute and I was talking out loud and Lace was like, I think you should do it. I think getting through it is going to give you a lot of confidence. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And it gives me more time on the bike. Like then I can kind of see really like what I'm doing on the bike out here. Like and hopefully build confidence and not make myself cry. But when I got in, Lais was crying, so she was like, I don't want you to hate me. She goes, I saw you struggling in the rocks. And she's like, she felt so bad that she talked me into it. And I had the biggest smile on my face. And I was like, no, 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 no. I just had so much fun. Like, I'm so glad that you talked me into it. She's like, I thought you were going to hate me. I was like, no. But like, that's how quickly the friendship formed. Like we literally met the day before, and then
Mhm.
that was how the interaction was. So like I think that that's really cool. You can form these really solid friendships really quickly in the clinic setting, and then like I said, you just feel like you're not alone in that space, even if you're physically alone in the woods. You know, still doesn't feel like you're alone, because you know there's people out there cheering for you, because you know that they were right next to you in that clinic. So I think that that's really important.
Well, to misquote Harry Potter, which is one of my favorite books growing up as a kid, there's some things you can't go through without becoming friends with each other, and riding hard
Yeah.
enduro is one of those things. Now, of course, in the Harry Potter books, it was killing a troll, but like sometimes I think, there's some commonalities.
Sometimes it feels like killing a troll would be easier. I can say that after last weekend at King of the Motos. So that was this is the hardest riding I've ever done in my entire life, and I
I
made
was
it
gonna say,
through one loop.
are you planning to race TKO this what, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? Coming up soon.
TKO or
Or no, not
KOM?
TKO, KOM, yes. Late
KOM,
tired, I
yes.
know what I'm talking about.
I am signed up, yes. So
Excellent.
I uh, so this goes back to the camaraderie thing. I don't know any other amateur women who are signed up, because all the AMs that I know are all broken right now. So
That's
I
the other
didn't
bad thing.
realize that. Yeah, I was like, so I'm trying to mentally prepare myself and just really hoping that there's some women who come out of the woodwork who are out there with me, because I really don't want to line up by myself.
Would you like to hear a fun camaraderie story from, King of
Oh
the Motos?
yes. Yes.
So, that was one of the first big hard enduros I did, and first year, didn't finish it, but then the second year, my friend Morgan Tanky and I, we
Mhm.
were battling. We both wanted to be the first woman to finish it, because up until then, none of the women had ever finished, and we're like, "Ah," like, so we're racing each other neck and neck, and
Yeah.
at some point, I forget, we were both suffering up this big obstacle and looking down at our watches, and then we kinda just looked at each other and went, "Okay." So we proceeded to then team up instead of
Uh-huh.
racing each other, like, and I mean, this was a pro class, we were racing for money, but we also, like, wanted to finish, right? So we,
Yeah.
drug each other's bikes up stuff. She actually, it was still legal at the time, she was riding a trials bike with a seat, and I was on, like, a
Uh-huh.
250F that was horribly ill-suited for what we were trying to do. Like, this is before I knew anything, right? And
Yeah.
we helped each other the whole rest of the day. At one point, we had to ride up a big sand dune, and that was what Morgan's trials bike was not doing it. So she actually had a rope in her fanny pack because her dad made her over prepare for everything. So we hooked the rope to her trials bike, hooked it to
Uh-huh.
my bike, and walked along pushing both the motorcycles, like using my 250 and all of its motor to try and pull her trials bike along as we pushed it up this big sand dune.
Oh my
And then when we got to
god.
the end, we I think she was maybe scared because I was on a bigger bike and I could have left her. But
Yeah.
we rode very slowly and carefully down the last section side by side and did our level best to cross identically. So
Yeah.
we share the honor of being the first women to ever
Aw.
finish. Um, and then my dad and I keep a little corner of the pole barn we call the cabinet of curiosities, where we keep it looks like a big pile of junk if you don't know what you're looking at, but it's like all things that have significance for some reason. And one of those items is my half of the rope that we used on the sand dune. We cut the rope in half like a giant friendship bracelet, and we each kept half the rope.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah,
That's awesome. I have weird little things like that I've kept, and, like, people are like, "Why do you have this?" And I'm like, it's a long story, just don't worry about
yes,
it." Like,
I've got
it's always,
I've got
like,
a rear
weird
tire.
little trinkets.
Got a rear tire with all the knobs cut off one side from straight rhythm. I have a burnt regulator from Tough Like Roar one year. I've like I said, it's all stuff you'd look at and go, "Why do you even have this?" But every single piece has a little bit of a story behind it. So,
Yeah. I think that's cool. I love stuff like that. Like, you gotta find someone artsy to put it, like, all together for you, and then you'll have, like, I don't know, people make, like, trees out of stuff like that, and then you can just, "This is my tree to talk about stuff." Like,
yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do with all of the stuff actually when I'm done. Besides the cabinet of curiosities, like, I have a lot of trophies lying around at this point, and you don't want to get rid of them, but also like, where do you put them? I don't know what to do with it. Like my medals, I have some of the cooler ones
Mhm.
hanging up on the wall there. I probably ought to do something better with that than what I've done,
Oh,
but
wow.
stuff like that. But I don't know what to do with it. Like most of them are just kind of like hanging out in the closet until I have somewhere to put them.
I got my first podium, and so I got my first like plaque, and I was like, I don't know where to put this because I live in an RV, so I don't have like wall space.
Yeah.
So it's just like hanging out over here in a cupboard. But I'm just like, well, if I start getting these, I'll have to find somewhere to put them. But that was my first one. So I do kind of really want one in hard enduro now because that was for a sprint enduro. Um, so we'll see. But if I'm the only amateur woman, then that might happen at KOM. So I would prefer
I'm
it to
rooting for you.
be I would prefer it to be like hard earned because that's I'm really proud of this because this was a
Well, it will be hard earned whether you're the only woman there or not, because I think you
that's
still have
true.
to like make a checkpoint to get one of those. I'm pretty
Checkpoint.
certain,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
making a checkpoint at KOM is no like that's not a walk in the park.
Yeah, I know. I was at the Moto Madness this last weekend and I was like, okay, if this was a race, would I have been at a checkpoint by now? And I was talking to like some of the guys who were like course workers or whatever, and they were like, no. And I was like, not even close, huh? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay. I'm
Cool,
on like
very
hour
cool.
like I was on like 2 hours and 45 minutes and I was like, cool, I only get like 3 hours the first day. So like if this is it, then I don't know, but yeah, it was just like awesome. Awesome. So in my head, I didn't make it to the first check, but I also like my buddy and I made it up Chocolate Thunder and then we sessioned some stuff and did some like clutch drills and stuff like that. So we did some like start practice. So we didn't just like go straight through as if we would have during the race. So
Mhm.
um we that was factored into the time as well, but I still don't think I would have made it in the 3 hours, but it was also, like, my first time actually going through a full canyon, I've never done that before, so it was pretty rough, and I was like,
Thunder's
"Well."
gnarly too.
Yeah, I was a little out of my element, but I am figuring it out. I've got, what, 3 weeks, like you said?
Yeah.
So I think that if I could figure out how to do like a clutch pop reliably, then I will be sitting pretty. But since I
I
got the
would argue that's
suspension
probably the
redone,
most fundamental hard enduro skill, clutch pop, being able to get that front wheel
yeah,
up on command where you need it to go. Like that's the big hurdle, I think, for a lot of people, or at least the women I've coached. Once you got that, you can pretty much figure out or bluff your way through the rest or push or
everything, yeah.
yank or paddle, but like you got to be able to get the front wheel at least over.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been a big thing for me. So I had the bike lowered with a link before. So it kind of like, it made the front lighter before anyway. And
Yeah.
so it was a little bit easier. I was starting to figure it out. And then I got it lowered internally and now it's all even again. And now all that weight's back in the front and I haven't quite figured out how to get it to come back up. So,
I also feel like it's more difficult to wheelie on a lower bike because the center of gravity is
mhm.
lower and the frame geometry is different. Not that it can't be done. It's just one of those things that it will take a little more effort to figure out than on full size bike.
And also, when you can't touch the ground to balance
That too.
yourself makes it slightly harder too. So,
Yeah, that's one benefit I definitely have. Like I can normally, as long as I'm not in a hole, I can get a foot to the ground. Same for Shelby,
yeah,
same for Hallie. So you are
yeah,
fighting at a little bit of a disadvantage there, but I have faith in you.
yep. I think I'm the shortest woman, actual woman, not girl, um, that's been at any of the races. I don't think anyone's shorter than me. So I think everyone's at least 5'2". At least everyone I've talked to is at least 5'2". And I was like, oh, I'd kill to be 5'2". I'm only 5 feet. Well, 4'11 and a half. But you know, Who's counting?
I'll give you the half. I'll give you the half. By the time you put the moto boots
Thank
on, you
you.
probably got a half.
Exactly. So 5 feet. So one of the guys this weekend asked me how tall I was, and I was like 5, and then I just kind of like walked away because I didn't think about it. I was like, well, some guys say they're 6 feet, and they just say, oh, 6, and then everyone knows. But he's like 5. Like what? And I think I broke his
Well,
brain a
just
little
five.
bit, but just 5, just 5. um. Okay, so you've been to a lot of races across the country in Lord knows how many disciplines you've done and throughout your entire life. Um, but what would you say is your favorite state to race in and or track/course?
Well, that's a wildly unfair question. I can't believe you're asking me that. That's like asking me to pick a favorite kid. What's wrong with you? Um,
That's
well,
why it's my favorite
man.
question. Most people don't have as much experience though as you do, like across the country. So this is great. We'll
All
give you
right.
two. We'll give you an east and a west. How about that?
Um, all right. My West Coast racing is actually pretty limited. Most of what I've done out
Mhm.
there has been Endurocross in a stadium. I've done King of the Motos. I've raced in Oklahoma a couple times, although that's not even really West Coast. It's
Ooh.
West for me.
Yeah.
I've trail ridden in Washington, and that's great fun. And done I'd done the Idaho City 100 a couple times back when it was the 6 days qualifier. So I don't really
Okay.
know that I'm qualified to speak on West Coast racing, really. Oh, and Silver Kings. I did Silver Kings this last year, and that was pretty fun too. I loved that event. But
Yeah.
with all of that being said, I would say you're giving me two.
Mhm.
Um, no place like home. I love a good local Indiana race. The dirt, I still
Mhm.
feel like we have the best dirt in the world. It's good for the corn, but it's also good for us. Like you just, I don't know if you've seen a really good Ironman GNCC with perfect conditions, or like what the MX track looks like is when it's plowed, or like we get that perfect dirt just in the field behind my house. And there's something really nice about just a perfect corner rut, single track through the woods. The Indiana National Enduro is one of my favorites, always has been. So we'll
Mhm.
say no place like home for the starter. Shout out to all my fellow Hoosiers. And then I've always really liked West Virginia. If I was going to pick some
Okay.
place to live other than where I live now, that would be it. I love the Rocky, the technical riding, and it's also just like a little slice of heaven. I mean, they call it almost
Yeah.
heaven for a reason. So I've raced the snowshoe GNCC. That's most of what I've done in West Virginia. I've done the odd local, maybe an enduro here or there, but even
Mhm.
just the trail riding I've done there is beautiful. So
Yeah.
you made me pick. If I thought it through, if I had to actually stop and think it through, I'd probably have a lot harder time answering this question. So I'm just gonna go. And you know what?
Go with that.
If you bring me back on this podcast and answer next year, I might have two completely different answers for you, and I can't help that. This is just what feels true right now. Don't make me defend my position, please.
You're not I was gonna say you're not committed for life, so it's fine. Okay, and then you also have a lot of world experience. So this question always gets people. Um, if all expenses were paid, you can go anywhere in the world to ride or race. Where would you want to go?
Maniacs.
Yeah?
I've always wanted to
Okay.
do a European hard enduro because they look gnarly. Sandra Gomez has tried to talk me into coming. It's just never lined up with the schedule. I would like to go over and do one just to see what it's like. Second option, and the other thing too, like it's kind of cheating because like I already get to do 6 days, and being a member of the trophy team, not everything, but most things are paid for. I'm already doing
Yeah.
Enduro GP, and I didn't lose money doing them this year, so we'll call that a win. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I do get to do a lot of European racing already. So I think that's why I would pick something like Romaniacs because it's something I haven't gotten to do, and I don't really know that opportunity will allow me to do it anytime soon. Like I said, I
Yeah.
was just working on my schedule this morning, and I'm already like at 30 races maybe, and I'm supposed to be cutting back. So like I can't really afford to add
Wow.
anything else. I'm going to be over my team and my father and my family's tolerance limit of having me gone. So Also over
That's
what
a
my
lot.
support, like, I don't get truly unlimited support from anyone, so I do have to sort of, like, budget the equipment to make sure
Yeah.
I don't wanna get too excited at the beginning of the year and have it basically be like lighting off a firework. "Well, you lit your firework, you don't have any firework left, Rachel, looks like you don't get to race," you know? So that's a very,
Oh, that would be
um
so sad.
I know, and I mean, we did everything in the US except hard enduro on a single motorcycle this year, practice, racing, all of it, and my
Wow.
dad's been my mechanic for many years, and he looked at the start of every race, he was just worried sick because he's like, "Well, this has gone too long. I don't have the ability to fix that. We should have been on like our second or third motorcycle by now, and I'm sending you out on this 160-hour practice bike and hoping it finishes, and we've got a national title on the line today. Like, I can't keep doing that to him." So the good
Yeah.
news is my support with Riehu came so late this year that I didn't like
Mhm.
it was just kind of like, "Here's what we got. I'm sorry it's not more," kind of thing. So I think this year will be
Yeah.
better, but I do have to like budget.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, like I said, I was sick for the last 3 months of this year. I'd rather not do that to myself again. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Agree.
yeah. If
We
so
wanna
I guess
see
we'd
you
also have to say
healthy.
in addition to all expenses paid, it needs to be like somehow magically not affect my motorcycle budget or my ability to be a person. Um, and then I
Yeah.
guess
Yeah.
the if I wasn't to do Romaniacs, I think I'd choose Roof of Africa. That one also looks super, super cool.
Yeah, that one looks awesome. I've been following that race for, years, and it's just so cool. Uh, so that one would be awesome. I always like Sea to Sky too, but, I'm planning on trying to get to Romaniacs this year and trying to do that. So if your schedule doesn't allow this year or next year, maybe in a few years, I'll be good enough to be
We
racing
can
at
go
your level and
together.
we can be in the
Nice.
same class.
Good fun. Good fun.
Yeah, so
We can
it'll be
split a rental
exciting.
van or something.
Heck yes. Yeah, I know a lot of people out there, so I think that I think I'm sharing a car with somebody. So like that's already cool because like it's already
Nice.
saving me money and um so yeah, I know people all over the place now, which is really cool because well, and it helps that I went to Erzberg this last year. So that was really cool. I met a lot of people over there. So it's
That is
helpful.
something I've learned about traveling in Europe a lot. Everybody speaks motorcycle. Like,
Mhm.
the community is the community even over there. Like, the connections I've
Yeah.
made just racing Enduro GP for 2 years, it's like, yeah, I can go stay at so and so's in Portugal. I've got a couch I can crash on in Dublin. You
Mhm.
just start adding it up and
Yeah.
it's like, wow, for only having been over there for 2 seasons and only like 8 rounds in total, 9 rounds, like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of crazy how the motorcycle community is, but I love it about that.
Yeah, we always talk about the community around like off-road riding and how it's just so supportive. And like that's part of what kept me going to the US Hard Enduros was the community. It was like I showed up to um actually it was Roar last year and it was so cool because I didn't really like I had kind of met people at Battle of the Goats before that. And and I was like, "Okay, well, I'm going by myself, like, I don't really I'm not meeting people there, but, like, let's see how this goes." It my anxiety was worse than it had been in such a long time, and I was just like, "Oh my god, like, I can't do this, like, I'm by myself, like, I'm gonna have to go hiking in the woods by myself, everything's gonna be alone." And within, like, 5 minutes, I made friends, and I found people who recognized me, and, like, people wanted to come and hike with me, and so it was really cool. And that's just, like, from the spectator side of it, let alone now being on the racing side of it or even just riding, like it's huge. People are so supportive and it's really, really cool because I don't know that I would keep throwing myself through rocks like this if I didn't have this kind of support from my friends.
Mhm.
um okay, so the other thing that I wanted to touch on was you talked about coaching. So, how did you kind of get into all of that? Was that something that you naturally did, um, or were you talked into it?
You know, a lot of things in my career have happened by complete accident. happy accidents, I like to call them, like Bob Ross. But no, I had no intention of ever really coaching, just like I had no intention of ever really writing for dirt bike magazines or had any intention of
Mhm.
becoming a women's Endurocross promoter or really didn't even mean to go to Enduro GP exactly. That was almost an accident too in its own way. So really things just sort of happen and I roll with them. With the coaching, I was with Beta and I crashed at the Alligator National Enduro in Daytona and completely destroyed my left elbow.
Ooh.
Essentially, what happened is I landed with the arm fully locked out, and I have to demonstrate with my other arm because this one doesn't go straight anymore. Landed with it locked out, and the humerus bone here came down through the
Uh-huh.
top of the radial head. So it didn't damage any of the ligaments, but basically that whole like the in a cartoon bone, the end piece here, the part that's shaped like that, right,
Uh-huh.
blew apart. There were not enough pieces left to put anything together, and in fact, the surgeon told me when he opened it, he had to use an air gun and, blow all of the fragments out. So,
Oh my
basically
god.
like someone stepping on an egg was how he described it. So, normally what happens in that is they put in a replacement piece, which I actually
Uh-huh.
you know what? Cabinet of Curiosities, can you give me, like, 30 seconds? I
Yep,
think I know where
yep.
it is. My room's a mess like
Oh.
I've talked about, but I normally keep it as a paperweight yes. So they put in a little metal piece into my arm that looks something like
Uh-huh.
this, because this is what
Uh-huh.
it was.
Yeah.
Problem was the surgeon missized the piece, and over the next 2 years, it proceeded to eat a hole through my radial and ulna bone or through my
Uh-huh.
humerus and ulna, and then fell out. So
Yeah.
now I just got this piece, like, flopping around in here like this every time I try and move, and it like, I kind of thought something might be wrong because it shouldn't still
Uh-huh.
hurt. I had, like, a 8-step protocol before I rode. I ate ibuprofen like it's candy. I'm surprised I have a liver left. Um, but yeah, so I just told myself to quit being a little bitch about it, like, "You had an elbow replacement. Tough it out. Do you wanna
Yeah.
race or do you not wanna race? It's gonna hurt. Suck it
Yeah.
up, bitch," was kinda how I'm not always very nice to myself in my head. So but then when the piece fell out, it didn't hurt, but I knew something was really, really wrong, like, that was not that feeling in there was not right. So, I went back to a different
Yeah.
surgeon, Dr. Tanner in South Carolina actually does a lot of work for GNCC riders, and he said that the piece needed to come out, they because, it wasn't
Mhm.
attached to anything anymore. They took it out
Mhm.
and, they couldn't put a new one in because there was too much scar tissue, so now I just have a hole about yay long, probably, where the bone should be and isn't. So
Yeah.
my radial bone doesn't it only connects at the wrist, it doesn't touch in my elbow anymore. But the good news is I'm not in constant chronic pain anymore, and even though my arm doesn't go, like, all the way straight, it gets most of the way there, and I can ride around it, right? So, point being, I got a little off topic here, but when I first had this injury, I was a factory rider with Beta and couldn't race for, like, 3, 4 months while recovering from that pretty invasive surgery they had to do.
Yeah.
So they were like, "Hey, since you're not doing anything, there's this woman in New Jersey named Kelly. She's got like this women's ride thing. Since we're still paying you part of your salary because we don't want you to be starving to death while also hurt, like go out there and sign some posters or something. We don't really care." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
sure. I'll go do that." So
Yeah.
the Kelly that's she just taught me about a year ago to pronounce her name when I asked her really nicely because I had no idea. McCaughey? Kelly McCaughey? I'm pretty sure that's right. Anyway, she runs Over and Out, which is a
Oh,
women's
yeah.
riding organization on the East Coast.
Mhm.
She's based out in New Jersey. They do a lot of stuff in Pennsylvania. So I went out
Yes.
there and I coached a little bit and absolutely loved it. Like
Yeah.
it was a way for me to be connected to the motorcycles while I couldn't really ride. And she and I struck up a bit of a friendship. So every year that I've not had some other obligation, I've gone back out there and coached for her. And then it just kind of like snowballed a bit from there once I realized, especially say when Sherco wasn't paying me, or,
Mhm.
I had a string of bad races and didn't make any money, or I'm injured and need to eat somehow, and I'd rather go coach than substitute teach or deliver pizzas or clean bathrooms at the
Yeah.
YMCA. So like of all of the of all of the things I could choose, I found I quite liked coaching. And even though it's not the same as being on the bike myself. It kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of the things I'm supposed to be doing because my form's not perfect. When I race
Yeah.
by hour 2, I definitely have my elbows dropped. I'm like so it just kind of serves as a refresher for me of what it is I'm supposed to be doing. I'm helping other
Mhm.
people, especially, and I like to do women's clinics the best because, like, the camaraderie. I'll coach guys too if I have to, but like, I definitely they have enough, right? There's enough for you already. Let's have some stuff for us.
Exactly.
So yeah, it works on a lot of different levels, and in fact, that's the other thing I've been planning this year, trying to come up with what my coaching schedule is going to look like. So
Yeah.
yeah, happy
You
accident.
have Oh my goodness, I cannot imagine what your planner looks like. Like,
You know, would you like to? I can show you.
sure, I would love
It's
to see
upsetting,
it.
but
I love organizational things. I'm one of those people who likes to buy planners and notebooks and pens. So,
all right. So I've got my book.
mhm.
It's too much of a glare to see it.
It's
It says Diary of a World Champion on it because I decided last
oh.
year that I needed to fake it until I made it. So I told myself if I couldn't walk around with a book that said World Champion on it, probably I wasn't going to be one. So I have these little printer pages that I print off and label
Uh-huh.
like with the date. You can see everything on
Everything.
there is currently written in pencil because it has been subject to change. So I've got like the first 6 months of my season planned out. And I know I
Yeah.
could use an online calendar, and sometimes I do. Um, but I like having hard copy. My dad's kind of old school,
Mhm.
so he also likes the hard copy. And
Yeah.
it drives me nuts that most calendars end on a Saturday. That is so back
Yeah.
asswards for how I live my life. I need it to end on a Sunday because everything I do that week, if I'm racing a national enduro, needs to be built up to that
Yeah.
national enduro. So I
Yeah.
have to print my own pages because it makes me mad that they end on a Saturday.
That you
Yeah,
can't
so at
have
the
it
beginning
go
of the
to the
year,
next week.
I basically have it's on my laptop, so I can't like show you that because I'm using my laptop right now for other things. But I
Yeah.
have an Excel sheet with every single major national series in the US, as well as all of the Enduro GPs, 6 days, the European Enduro Championships. I actually might be doing a Portuguese national championship race this year because I've got a sponsor over there who maybe wants me to do one. So,
Oh.
and I mean, I'll even throw in like West Hare Scrambles and Hare and Hounds just in case like I happen to be in the area already for something and why not? Um,
Oh
so
my
yeah,
goodness.
that's the
That's
problem.
crazy.
When I look and see everything on paper that I could possibly do in a season, it's so hard to pick.
Yeah.
And I've always felt sort of like if there's a race happening on a weekend and I'm not at it, I feel like the universe is punishing me for something. Like it's like the dog that has to watch the car driving away and it's not in the car. Like I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
they're racing this weekend and I'm at home. That's no fun."
Oh.
So, is it healthy?
I
Maybe not, but we're
it's
friends here.
racing is a good healthy addiction, I feel like. In your way of doing it. You're not out there, I mean, yes, you got sick this year, but you're not out there like trying to kill yourself,
I mean,
trying to make
I could
every
be
single race,
I could be
you're
doing
figuring it out.
heroin, I guess. Like, I'm not doing heroin.
Exactly.
I'm not robbing banks. I mean, there are worse things
Exactly.
I could do with my time. So,
But I also look at it too, and my buddy and I were just talking about this, about like riding isn't just about you. So I had been talking to my friend about this, and he and I were talking about like debating about whether or not riding is a selfish sport. Period. Not disciplines anything because you're by yourself on your bike. Yes, you could be out with other people, but you're doing everything yourself. I said that's not really selfish to me. That's like an independence thing, right? So different frameworks, guy versus girl. So I'm looking at it through the lens of this is something that gave me confidence. He's looking at it as it's something that he does to get like,
away from
for
people.
lack of a better term, yeah, away from his family.
I
Like
was gonna
that's
say
his
that's an
time for
escape.
himself, right? Like, yeah. So, but for me, yes, it's that too, but it's also like a way to build myself into a better person. So, very different viewpoints there. And so my other friend and I were then talking about um like sponsorship and worthiness and stuff like this, and I had this moment where I was like, okay, somebody had mentioned something to me, and I had this epiphany of everything that we do on the bike may be quote unquote selfish, but what we do, especially us as women, also has a huge effect on other people, especially if you're putting your riding or racing out on social media. You're inspiring people, whether you realize it or not. And there are people whose lives are changing because of you and the things that you're doing. So I think that it all comes back to that. Like you're showing people and you're inspiring people that there's this amazing thing out there. And I always say I have so much happy now because of dirt bikes. Like it's boiling over, right? And I just wish that I could bottle up the extra and give it to people, but I can't do that. I haven't figured it out yet. Um, so the only other thing I know how to do is convert everyone to dirt bikes. And so like cuz that's what made me stupid ridiculously happy. And so how could that not work for everybody? So that's what I try and push. But like honestly, like, if your favorite thing is knitting, I'll be so happy for you. I just please don't ask me to do it with you because I can't. But, like, find your passion. That's my biggest thing is find your passion. But if it's dirt bikes, I will be right there next to you holding your hand when you fall because, like, I think it's the coolest progression and, like, I think it does so much for you in life. But somebody at your level, you're inspiring people so, so much more than somebody like me, you know? And I just think it's absolutely cool, like the coolest thing.
Well, thank you. And I've never really thought about it in that the context of that spirited debate you and your buddy were having. But what you're saying makes a lot of sense because yeah, you're doing it alone, but you're doing it with a larger community behind you. Just like we talked about,
Mhm.
motorcycle people are motorcycle people no matter where you find them. I think
Yeah.
that's very true. But I will say one of the things about this being a solo sport, that's one of the reasons I've always loved 6 days so much because for once in my life I
Mhm.
get to have teammates. Our scores all count
Yeah.
together and we're actually working together during the race rather than just riding as individuals. So that I don't know, I don't really know exactly how that fits into the conversation, but it feels like it's relevant, so I figured I'd toss that out there. But yes, riding for the larger community, there's something to be said for that as well.
Yeah. That's, points for me, versus my friend, so just saying.
I feel like it helps. The pro rider says.
Yeah, she said. So, yeah, I just the community in general, like we were saying, community, teammates, camaraderie, all of it. It's so huge. And all of us, like you said, motorcycle people are motorcycle people. We all have this same kind of crazy because if you're going to be on a bike, at some point you're learning and you're falling. And it takes a little bit of crazy to be like, I want to keep doing this until I'm better. And
Mhm.
then you take the people who are into stuff like hard enduro, and that's an even different level of crazy because now you have the people who are like, I'm going to go throw myself into rocks for fun.
It's
And
good
so,
sometimes.
yeah, it is. I have fun with it most of the time. Um, but it's it's like I was saying, passion, and the people around you are having the same amount of fun, if not more fun than you are, and you're all just out there enjoying nature and being away from all of the insanity of the internet. And I think that there's like you were talking about it being an addiction. You could definitely be addicted to heroin. You could definitely be addicted to the internet. And all of us get our time away because I don't know about you, but I personally do not know anybody who is on their phone on their bike. Like maybe taking their phone out to take pictures or videos, but they're not like sitting there scrolling
You're not
Instagram
doom
on their
scrolling.
bike.
No,
Like,
no.
exactly. Like you are present and like you have to be there. And I think that's one of the things a lot of people like is you have to be present in what you're doing because if you're not focused on the terrain, if you're not focused on what you're doing, what your body position is, all of these things, you're going to make a mistake and that could hurt. Um,
Mhm.
so you can't really think about what's going on at work or, whatever it may be. Your car being broken. Um, but you have to focus and you're just present in that moment. And for me, that's super grounding. And for me, that's super helpful. And I think that that's kind of like something that we all relate to and that we
Mhm.
all, it just builds that camaraderie more.
For sure. That West Coast,
Um,
East Coast time difference is a pain, isn't it?
I know, I know. I was just gonna say in our last few minutes here, if you have any shout outs or thank yous, this is your time.
Oh boy, sponsor list. I was not prepared for this late in the evening.
Oh, it
Okay.
doesn't have to
So,
necessarily be
okay.
small. I can list sponsors in the
You know what?
description. So
My sponsors get enough attention. I'll talk about, Riehu for stepping in to save my season, Arai because I'm wearing their hat, and Moose Racing because I'm expecting a big check from them that's going to finance my Florida trip this year. So those are the three sponsors we're going to talk about. Now let's thank some people because that hardly ever gets to happen, right? By the time you finish rattling
Yeah.
off all the sponsors like an auctioneer on the block, you don't have a whole lot of room for anything else. So, biggest thank you,
Yeah.
of course, to my parents because without them, I wouldn't be here. I simply
Yeah.
wouldn't. They supported me all along financially when I needed it. I mean, I'm literally sitting in their house right now. If
Yeah.
anything, I live in my van, but this is still where my mail comes. So,
Yeah.
um, they also have let me use their property as my own personal playground for my entire life, riding my dirt bike on, which is certainly a big benefit. And my dad, of course, travels with me to most of the races and works as my mechanic. So,
Yeah.
massive shout out to them and the rest of my family for being patient with the fact I'm not home on weekends or holidays or anytime they might want to hang out with me. Um, and then, you know what? Because I'd like to thank Maria Forsberg and Mandy Maston for being such good mentors as I was growing up. I hope
Mhm.
that I've been able to do the same for some of the other women out there, or at least made the women's pro scene feel like a welcoming place to the newcomer who just isn't quite there yet. Like, I think that's an important thing to do, and I hope that
Yeah.
I've succeeded in doing it with some of the younger racers. Then I would like to thank Jay Hall of District 17. He
Mhm.
had such a good youth program when I was growing up, and he's heavily involved in 6 days, and he's a Riehu dealer and has done so much for me this year. Like, over the course of my
Wow.
career, Jay's been in and out, and I've appreciated everything he's done for me. Same for another dealer buddy of mine, David Quill in DQ. He's service manager up at Spikes KTM. Whenever we've had some kind of emergency, he's always been willing to step in. Bill Gussie for putting together a series that used to make sea riders cry and turned me into the rider I am today. Eric Pinard for giving me a chance to go to the first ever women's Endurocross. My whole career would have turned out differently if I hadn't gotten that invite, for sure. Um, to uh, Kiwi and to Neve Holmes from the UK, who were able to facilitate me coming to Enduro GP the first time. Billy Schlag, who runs the Sprint Enduro series and has coached me into being a better sprint rider, one corner that we do 50 times until I got it right after corner, and for giving me a job taking down course ribbon at the times when I've been too broke to make it back home without that gas money.
Oh,
There's
gee.
just and I could go on like this all day. There's been so many people over my life and my career who have just and sometimes it's a lot they've done for me. Sometimes it's as small as just giving me a couch to sleep on. But all of
Mhm.
them made it so it was possible for me to continue racing now.
Yeah.
So none of this whole winning all of 2025 thing wouldn't have happened with 15 years worth of people taking their time out for me.
Yeah.
I think that was better than a sponsor list anyway. Hey,
I think that's amazing, and that goes back to you being humble and not having a huge ego, and I absolutely love that. This is why so many people love you. Like, plus the fact that you're ridiculously talented, but um, you're just you're awesome all the way around, and that was so cool. Like I said, track walking with you last year at TKO was huge for me. So it was it's really cool to be able to sit down and talk like this. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it so much, and I'm really excited to see what races you decide to do next year because there's plenty of options for you.
well, this has been good fun. I definitely think we should do it again sometime. And thanks for having me on the
Yes.
show.
All right. We'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.